Welcome to this episode of Raising Killin', the podcast to motivate, inspire, and educate parents raising kids with special needs. I am your host, Marsh Naidu, and today I'm sitting down with Jae and Ant Puente, brothers and co-hosts of Let's Discuss This. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to start with a real serious question, Anthony.
Okay.
What's it like working with your brother?
Oh, well, we have our good days and bad days. I'll say that. Sometimes I can't even get a word in. But I always say that he's the Batman and I'm the Robin. But sometimes, I don't want to be Robin. I want to be Superman. But no, it's really good because we're very good. We think alike at some things. Some things we do agree and disagree on. But we like the same things and we can discuss it. We talk all the time, so it's nothing new. It's just a microphone in front of our face. That's pretty much it.
So what was the fire to start Let's Discuss It, Jay?
So I started Let's Discuss It because I'm really big into talk radio. I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan. I used to listen to the old Howard Stern. And Howard Stern now is a lot more serious. So hearing him now, it's a way better experience to listen. But I think right now talk radio is the future. I think a lot of people are getting away from the music and actually want to educate themselves. There's a lot of crime story podcasts. There's a lot of history podcasting. There's a lot of people going through difficult pregnancy podcasts. I've seen people who have equality podcasts. Everything that's a topic is becoming a podcast to help educate and spread awareness. And I felt like I wanted to have an opinion, but I also want to gain an understanding from things I don't know. So I wanted to start a podcast and bring people in with the expertise of what I want to know and have an open discussion with it.
Guys, cerebral palsy is a complex medical condition that impacts all three of us.
Correct.
And as a female, I know me and other mothers just talk about stuff, but guys very rarely do. So
Correct.
Today's podcast, I would like to gain the male perspective of you and as an uncle and a dad of a child with special needs.
Yes,
so let me start with you first, okay, Jay? What went through your mind when you received the diagnosis, Noah's diagnosis?
So when Noah was born, he was very sick early on, premature. Stayed in the NICU in Nashville for 5 to 6 weeks, I believe, or actually it might have been even less, maybe 4 to 5 or 6 weeks, and really, in all honesty, I wanted him just to get better from that because premature babies have the tendencies to being sick, but they also overcome. Later in life, I think around his 1 year, 1 year of age, we started seeing that he was delayed in everything. Wasn't trying to reach for things. Eye coordination wasn't correct. Wasn't attempting to crawl. Wasn't attempting to walk. Wasn't attempting to do anything. And so when we got the diagnosis that he actually has something called spastic cerebral palsy, it was a little devastating because it is hard to think that your son won't do things that other kids can do. It's hard that, Jude wouldn't be able to, push Noah over and Noah run after him to push him back. I think it was tough to know that, I might not see him dance at a wedding, or I might not see him, go to his first pool party, stuff like that. It runs through your mind. But you have to stay optimistic. You have to think that, the best is ahead. I think it's a little difficult still because you get a daily reminder of what your son is going through. I think that's what's the hard thing about it.
When did you tell Anthony about Noah's diagnosis? How did that happen?
I told him and a bunch of my family all at the same time. I said, hey, we just got word back that this is what it is. I don't think they really knew what it was, like I didn't. I've only heard of that term ever so often, didn't really hear about it much. Not a lot of people we grew up in the town we grew up in Crockett. Did you ever see anyone with a disability like that? So it was a lot of researching. It was a lot of looking into. The worst thing you can ever do is get on the internet. I believe they make it, they make things so much worse. So I think when I told my brother, he was hurt for me. I think he was hurt. I think it hurt him hard because, it's not easy to see your sibling go through an emotional state. I think just for him to see me, which I'm not really an emotional person, but for him to see me go through something so troubling, I think that hurt him too. In all honesty.
Yeah, it definitely was. Because like Jay said, I didn't know. I was 16 years old, if I want to say 16, 15, around that area, when I found out about Noah. And I was hurt because what Jay said, that's stuff that goes to your mind as a parent, but I'm an uncle. So, and it was exhausting because they did have to go to Nashville. They did have to do all this. And I can't really explain, but, I was exhausted for him already and what he was about to go through in his life.
I totally understand. I do, guys. Jay, give me an idea of what your day is like.
Usually when if we're pertaining to my day with Noah, I wake up. Usually he's awake before me. He wakes up early. I don't know where he got this from because my mom wakes up at like 5 a.m. But then so does my son. So he'd wake up at 5. The first thing you do is you check his diaper. You make sure he didn't wet the bed, which he's kind of prone to that if you feed him late and he falls asleep, check his diaper, check his G-tube, make sure it's all intact because at his age, he's more likely to grab his G-tube. And he doesn't understand that when he pulls that it's only getting worse because, he's one of those, he grips and then he just doesn't let go. One time he grabbed his hair and didn't realize that he was the one grabbing his hair. So he grabbed his hair and he kept pulling. And the more he pulled, the harder he cried. So it's really just a routine checkup, checking, to make sure everything, him being comfortable, with a new pamper, fresh clothes, setting up his feeding, getting his bags ready, getting his water for his flush ready, medication, setting him up, making sure he's not congested. Because one thing about cerebral palsy kids that I've heard about is respiratory issues. They decline as they get older if they're not able to be more functional, more active. So, I really check on them a lot more often in the evening time or, in the morning time too when he lays down because with the weather change and everybody getting sick, a cold to him or being congested to him is harder on him than it would be, just a regular kid. So, checking him, making sure he's all good, and just kind of keeping him comfortable throughout the day, playing his favorite shows. But during the week, he has therapies. He has aqua therapy. He has, occupational therapy. He has feeding therapies, stuff like that to the extent. But for the most part, he's really cool. He's really laid back. He likes to laugh. He likes to hear his shows. Anywhere you go, you got to take his wheelchair so he's comfortable. So,
Thank you, Jay. Now listen, as a dad of a child with special needs, what do you want other parents or other folks to know?
I think the one thing I would want them to know that, if we're walking around, be courteous, be a little courteous, like we know what we're dealing with. We don't need reminders like looks and just be sweet. Noah's really good. I'm sure any kid with, cerebral palsy or, autistic or, anything to that extent that has a disability, Down syndrome, they want to be loved and they want to be spoken to politely, just say hey to them and, just be very kind to them. I feel like people who have special need kids, their day by day is very underestimated. I think that not a lot of people see what happens behind closed doors of dealing with, you come home, you can go home and sit down and watch TV. It's not that easy for us. You got to make sure that they're being fed. You got to make sure that they're not sore from sitting down most of the day. You got to make sure you lay them down vertically. You got to give them a bath. Giving a kid with CP a bath is probably the hardest thing because, they get heavier. If you don't have a walk-in shower, you have to lay them down or you got that bath chair and it's not that easy. It's hard because they get heavier as they get older. So, I just don't underestimate what someone's going through. I feel like just be kind and just be courteous to that end as far as what people, may misconceive of what having a, special needs kid would be like. So
I think if there's anything I want other folks to know is please do not park in a handicapped spot unless you absolutely have to. And do not block me on my way out. Please. That is what I want you guys to
Absolutely never park in the handicapped spot. Especially if you see a wheelchair rack behind the vehicle, you know. Well, we don't have one. Do you have one of those?
Not yet, but
working on it?
Yes.
I wish. I need to get me a handicap sticker because it is hard to pull, take a truck all the way to the end of the parking lot because, you have nowhere else to park. And then you got a kid with a wheelchair and you got to walk him all the way that way when really he's entitled to be, to be closer in that closer spot. So, yeah, I completely agree with you on that one.
Anthony, as an uncle, what would you like other folks to know?
Same thing. I've seen being with Jae and Noah, people look, people stare. I think that is very hurtful. I could say it's probably very hurtful to Jae if he sees it. It's hurtful for me when I see people look at Noah, or turn around and whisper to somebody that's next to him. They might be saying good things, might be saying a bad thing. You never know. But I think that's a big challenge. There's no need to stare. Noah's just a regular child. Well, you know what I mean. The aspect he's a child, so he shouldn't be looked at any other way. Like just the same thing. Just not have sympathy, but just know that what they're going through is harder than what you can ever imagine. So I believe that's a good thing to tell people, especially if you see stuff like that out in public. So.
Or come up to me and ask me what's going on. You know what I mean? Just don't whisper.
Yes.
Just ask. I mean,
it
was very hard for me, I think, in the beginning to explain. But, I mean, that's what I'm teaching Kellen right now. When someone asks what's going on or why are you using a walker or wheelchair, I said, Kellen, you have to own it because if you don't own it, you are not going to be able to move past it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And now Kellen says, I have cerebral palsy.
Yes.
And it's a matter of fact. It's, as you said, you don't expect sympathy, but you don't want anything in return.
Exactly.
Right.
But that's
just silent courtesy.
That's it.
I mean, really, in all honesty, like you said, Kellen says, "Oh, I have cerebral," but that's amazing that he has acknowledged his disability and is able to express it to people who are curious about him. Now, if Noah's in a wheelchair in a couple of years, he's going to have the flyest wheelchair ever because I'm going to put all kinds of lights on it and like wheel lights. Every time his wheel spins, it's a different color. So, if this is something he's going to, live with, I want him to have the best of it, embrace it and have fun with it. Not look at it as a disability, but maybe a privilege.
There you go. Guys, in this journey we are walking in together. What does this time of the year represent to you? And let me start with you, Anthony, first. What does this time of the year represent to you?
My faith. When I think of Christmas, I think of Jesus, obviously. And I believe this is just a time to be thankful, to be with your loved ones and your family members. Because a lot of the comfort that you get if you're a parent or if you're related to somebody that is dealing with a child with disability is the support of your family to go with it, because they can help you at times. They can definitely help. I know Mom and Dad has helped Jae times when Jae's been exhausted, and I know Jae's very appreciative of that. I've helped too. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just having your family support, and this is definitely the season to be thankful for that.
Absolutely.
Jae, what does this time of the year represent for you, bud?
Another year with Noah.
That's it.
I think every Christmas I have with him is a blessing. We had an early Christmas today with my girlfriend's family. They came by today, and he was able to open up gifts with the other kids, and it was just it's inviting that he was with his brother, and he was able to do stuff like this, and it just makes it when I can have memories of him at every Christmas that I have with him, and it's just that to me has always been a good thing for me as far as with Noah. So that's really what this time of year means to me.
Guys, I want to thank you all so much for answering those questions. I have another quick favor to ask.
Okay.
Just as I said, from the male perspective, if y'all don't mind getting together and writing just a half a page blog, just half a A4 page of the guy's perspective, and I'll put that on my blog site. And
Yes, ma'am.
as I said, thank you so much for sharing your perspective with
Thank
me
you for
today.
having me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So, guys, until we see you all the next time, remember to get to the top of your mountain. This is Marsh Naidu signing out.